Good morning, America. I'm Joan Lunden.
And I'm Charles Gibson. This morning in Exeter, New Hampshire, it is Monday, February 17th. And ahead this morning, the New Hampshire primary. Undecided voters grapple with the presidential choice.
Benjamin Hook steps down as leader of the NAACP, the nation's oldest civil rights organization.
And toy makers' latest wares guaranteed to put smiles on adult faces and kids' faces like Spencer's. Spence?
That's right, Charlie. Well, it's a brand new week, but the same old weather is headed for the West Coast. Big storms are still brewing in the Pacific, and we'll tell you what that means for flood-ravaged California in this hour. Joan?
And, of course, we are all back from our week in Hollywood. Well, Charlie's not back. He's up in New Hampshire. But we've got a lot of things coming up. Benjamin Hooks, executive director of the NAACP for the past 15 years, has announced his resignation in the face of a bitter organizational split, and we will talk to him in a few moments. And, of course, Charlie is up there in New Hampshire. A lot going on. Hi, Charlie.
Getting ready for the primary,
Yeah.
Joan. Good morning. As I mentioned earlier, I am in the town of Exeter, New Hampshire this morning at a place called the Loaf and Ladle Restaurant. It's a local eatery where folks come to have a cup of coffee and talk. We've gathered about 50 of the local folk here this morning. And, of course, they're talking about politics these days. The New Hampshire people like their day in the sun every 4 years, even if it comes in February. As I mentioned, things a bit more undecided than in the past this year. Pollsters have a word for that. They call it soft. The 5 Democratic candidates so far, relatively unknown. There is still talk that perhaps a candidate or two could get into the race after the New Hampshire primary. And on the Republican side, the president thought to be in a bit of trouble up here, but nobody's quite certain how much. Today, we're going to be talking to the people of New Hampshire. Last week, you'll recall, we gave you the views of the 5 Democratic candidates on the major issues, but today and tomorrow, we'll be talking to the citizens of New Hampshire, their slant on things. As I mentioned today in Exeter, tomorrow we'll be in Durham, New Hampshire, on the campus of the University of New Hampshire. And then on Wednesday, once we know who the winners and losers are, we'll be in Manchester. Joan?
All right, Charlie. And leading the news this morning, of course, more on the 11th hour campaigning in New Hampshire. And Morton Dean today is sitting in for Mike Schneider. He has that story and the other news of the day. Mort, good morning.
More it is, Joan. Good morning, and good morning, everyone. The long New Hampshire campaign is almost over. It's the eve of the primaries there. And for the Democrats, the latest Boston Globe says Tsongas has pulled further ahead of Clinton. The Tsongas lead is now 11 points. After Clinton comes Harkin, with Kerry right behind him. Former Governor Jerry Brown is further back, as is a write-in campaign for New York Governor Mario Cuomo. The candidates are getting in their last licks. The Democrats teamed up against President Bush, but went a bit easy on each other last night during a debate. ABC's Mike Von Fremd has details.
Anyone tuning in last night to see the gloves come off was disappointed. In the final hours of this primary fight, it was a mild-mannered affair.
The floor is yours, sir. Twice in a row I feel rather presumptuous, but let me do it.
But Tsongas, who has clashed with rivals in the past about the danger of protectionist trade policies, unveiled a new strategy to compete with Japan.
Let me tell you, the strongest would be to go to the American people and say the Japanese have not been fair. They are restrictive in their policies, and I call upon you to understand that in your consumer purchases.
So in other words, you'd call upon Americans not to buy Japanese cars?
If the Japanese are not willing to be reasonable, then you have to play hardball.
The only issue the candidates really attacked the frontrunner on was his support for nuclear power. And even that was done with kid gloves.
Paul, we're not all trying to gang up on you. We're not saying you're wrong all of the time, but on this particular issue, I think you are. I mean, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has lied to the American people.
Throughout the evening, the candidates had plenty of time to state and restate their own positions. Bill Clinton, sensing unusual unity, remarked on how much they all agree on President Bush's lack of attention to the environment.
I don't know if we're going to make any news tonight or not, but I think we just all said something that we ought to say together right now.
Is that an amen from all of you, or what?
Yeah, we agree on a climate treaty.
All along, Tsongas has refused to engage in negative campaigning, and staying above the fray may have helped make him the front runner. So if the message from the voters is that nice guys are going to finish first, the rest of the field wants to show they can be nice guys too, at least for the moment. Mort?
Mike, and I guess one of the big questions is how many of the guys will be left in the campaign after New Hampshire? Do you think that some will be dropping out?
Well, Jerry Brown, who's forecast to finish last, says all he needs is a few airline tickets and he'll stay in the race. But anyone who comes in fourth, whoever comes in fourth, is probably going to have to drop out because it's very expensive to continue on through Super Tuesday. As you mentioned, though, maybe someone will be dropping in if Mario Cuomo does well in that write-in effort.
Right, thank you, Mike. Mike Von Fremd in New Hampshire. And as for the Republicans, there are a few doubts that President Bush will take New Hampshire tomorrow. But there is a question about what his margin of victory will be. Challenger Patrick Buchanan appears to be making some headway by hitting the president where it hurts, right in the ailing economy. President Bush is fighting back by saying he's got what Buchanan does not have, and that is experience.
It's one thing to make campaign rhetoric, and it's another thing to get your sleeves rolled up and trying to support the president in getting it done. And that's my point to the voters in New Hampshire.
I think what we have here with Mr. Bush and his tax plan is a classical example of the bait and switch. Mr. Bush is running a sting operation on the people of New Hampshire, and he's not going to get away with it a second time.
The Boston Globe poll gives President Bush a roughly 2-to-1 lead over Buchanan. The poll was done on Friday and Saturday. There were artillery battles today in South Lebanon between Arab guerrillas and Israeli forces. The fighting is the latest escalation in confrontations that began early on Saturday when 3 sleeping Israeli soldiers were killed. ABC's Dean Reynolds has details.
Israeli soldiers this morning were inspecting a crater left by a Katyusha rocket that landed near this country's northern border with Lebanon. Several rockets, none of which caused any damage according to the Israelis, were fired from Arab guerrilla bases in Lebanon. The Katyusha assault came less than 24 hours after Israeli helicopter gunships attacked and killed Lebanese cleric Abbas Moussaoui. The 39-year-old Moussaoui had just finished a speech to his supporters yesterday and was returning home when his convoy was attacked. He was the leader of the militant Islamic organization Hezbollah, implicated in the suicide bombing of the U.S. Marine base in Beirut in 1983, in the taking of Western hostages in Lebanon, and in repeated but mostly unsuccessful attacks on Israeli forces controlling southern Lebanon.
I think hitting a terrorist organization and Abbas Moussaoui, whose hands are bloodied with the blood of Israeli soldiers, of American Marines, I think hitting him at any time turns out to be a good time.
This recent cycle of violence began Saturday with the murders of 3 Israeli soldiers, an incident believed to be the work of Palestinians. That attack left most Israelis badly shaken. Hitting Hezbollah may restore some Israeli pride, but it could also trigger a more dangerous round of eye-for-an-eye retaliations. The Israeli military this morning is on heightened alert, bracing for the next move. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
Finally, if you feel as if you're working more and playing less than you did before, you may be right. The new study by the research group, the Economic Policy Institute, says the average full-time worker in this country put in 140 more hours on the job in 1989 than in 1969. Why? The study says it's mainly to offset the rising cost of health care and the cost of housing. And that's the news, and Joan and Spencer are hard at work this morning.
You bet, Mort. Last week, rain all week. Sunny California, we got there, it started raining. It rained all week, and now they have more rain.
It's coming back,
right?
Yep. The same old pattern, a new week, but the same old weather story. So we'll take a look at how much we expect to fall today.
Okay.
Let me show you what's causing this steady flow of moisture off the Pacific. We take a look by way of satellite at the activity of weather patterns in the Pacific. We've still got this big, well, it's a new stationary low-pressure system up in the North Pacific, Gulf of Alaska, and that's pumping moisture around this way into the west coast. Another storm assisting the flow from way out in the Pacific towards the west coast. And that means wave after wave of moisture pushing into Washington State, Oregon, and northern and central California this time, likely to get more rainfall than southern California. So from Astoria, Oregon down to Santa Rosa, California, look for about 1 to 2 inches of rainfall today. From Mount Rainier down to Sierraville, there will be snowfall farther inland. We're looking for 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, 1 to 2 feet of snow. That's 1 to 2 feet. And the possibility of mudslides exists again today as the soil out there is just saturated and will get even wetter as the day goes on. Farther inland, look for light snow developing over the central Rockies, reaching up into the northern plains. And violent thunderstorms have ripped through the lower Mississippi Valley this morning and will plague the entire Gulf Coast area throughout the day. That's a look at the national weather picture. Here's a look at the weather where you are.
Good Monday morning, everybody. I'm Channel 5 meteorologist Rick Mitchell. Your 5cast calls for periods of rain today. We may even hear some thunder. A high temperature in the upper 40s. Winds from the southeast 10 to 20 miles per hour and gusty.
And coming up in my next weather report, clouds shroud the satellite photographs in the next half hour. Joan?
All right, thank you, Spencer. Right now, 9 minutes after, amid reports that the nation's oldest civil rights organization is divided over internal rules, Benjamin Hooks announced over the weekend that he will retire from the NAACP at the end of his current term. And Benjamin Hooks has been the executive director of the NAACP for 15 years. He joins us this morning from WJZ in Baltimore, Maryland. And good morning, sir. Nice to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Your name has really become synonymous with the NAACP for so many years. What made you decide to retire now?
Well, first of all, I'm 67. I've been there 15 years, 18 20-hour days, 7 days a week. 15 years is a long, long time. I've given some thought to it, and I decided to retire and to give the board a lead time to find a successor. I announced my retirement a year in advance.
Of course, it comes amid all these other reports of the turmoil within your organization, and much of it over the issue of limits for officers. And it was announced over the weekend that a number of long-term officers, like Julian Bond and National President Hazel Dukes, were denied re-election. Does this whole angry debate have anything to do with your decision?
No, actually, there has been some dispute within the board. I suppose it's normal to have disputes within the board. As the executive director, so far as my official position is concerned, I've tried to remain aloof from it because that's not really my job. But there's no question that there's some problems, and I hope they will soon be worked out.
But that's just a coincidence.
Yes, well, what happened, my decision to retire was based on the fact I want to go back to my church work. There's a book I want to write. There's some lecturing I want to do. There's some real hard questions in America. There's a movement by certain black people to go back to what they call self-segregation. There's a movement by white people to move this nation backward. The Supreme Court has gotten worse and worse. We've got a timid Congress and a president who has not led us as he should have. And I think I can do more now at this stage of my life by moving around lecturing and not being tied down with money raising and administration.
Well, that's interesting. You're talking about all these changes that have taken place over the 15 years that you've been there. And when you first became executive director, I think it was 1977, the organization was really almost criticized a little bit for being, too conservative, relying too much on lobbying and litigation in order to obtain change. Now, today, there's some criticism of the organization being too liberal, that it's out of step with mainstream black America. Would you say that that's a fair assessment?
Well, I think both assessments were rather stupid. NAACP has been the forefront of the fight for 83 years. We have been and we are the leader. And for black people who have made so or done so well, it's almost ludicrous for the press to portray a few wild-speaking blacks as leaders. Everybody has some kind of constituency if it meets in the telephone booth.
Well,
but the broad stream of black thought has been represented by the NAACP, and we shall continue to use our historic weapon of boycott, demonstration, public education, and whatever it takes, voting and all to move the nation forward. We've been very successful, and we shall stick with that program.
I think that what they point to are specific incidents like when the NAACP opposed the nomination of Clarence Thomas, when the majority of black Americans, when they were polled, were behind him, and so that they saw that discrepancy.
But I think if you look at it, the majority of black people in this country wanted to see a black on the Supreme Court when Mr. Marshall resigned. That's normal and understandable. The majority of black people did not know Clarence Thomas. They'd never heard of him. They knew nothing of his philosophy. The NAACP had opposed him on several occasions, had asked for his resignation, and therefore we felt duty-bound to oppose him. If you look at the polls, once the NAACP took a position, his support among the black population started to erode. The Anita Hill thing came up, and that was a bombshell. It created a lot of questions all over the nation among black and white, and the major issue was lost sight of in terms of his philosophy and where he stood. We make no apology, and we wish now Judge Thomas no harm, but I think as he moves along, we'll understand whether or not we were right or wrong. But the NAACP is not about trying to win popularity contests. Yeah. There were those who told us don't go for school integration. There were those who told us don't go for this, don't go for that. But we have moved forward because we believe that this country, with all of its multiple pluralism, ought to be a country that affords equality to everyone, black, white, yellow, red, brown, and we're going to move forward in that philosophical vein.
And this country, of course, has got a national presidential election starting now. Will race play a role in it?
Yes, the NAACP does not take positions in a partisan sense. However, we do engage in mammoth voter registration drives. Just before the David Duke situation in Louisiana, we spent a great deal of money registering black voters, and then we spent an equally large amount getting them out on election day. Of course, the results are obvious. They did not vote for David Duke, And even though 55% of the white population did vote for him, it was that huge black vote that defeated him. In the presidential election, we are busy now all over this country, and particularly where a large concentration of blacks live, in voter registration campaigns, and you can believe we're going to be active trying to impact on the platform and the philosophy and the programs of whoever it is that runs for the presidency in November of 1992.
Benjamin Hooks, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
It is 19 minutes after the countdown to the nation's first presidential primary. A preview when Good Morning America continues.
If you smoke cigarettes, I know you want to stop. It's the smart thing to do. I'm Russell Yarnell, and I conduct stop smoking seminars. Attend my seminar and stop smoking in just one evening without pain, suffering, or weight gain.
I don't want a cigarette.
It's excellent. I quit.
It's fantastic.
I quit.
I recommend it for anybody.
Stop smoking for good. Please be there.
Thursday, February 20th, University Park Holiday Inn. Registration 6 o'clock, only $38.
Years of growing corn have taught us the right way to farm is the responsible way. We live out here, so we're concerned about the products we use. That's why we choose Lorsban 15G. It stops rootworm, and we're comfortable using the easy open bag with the built-in handle and pour spout.
Choose the most widely used corn soil insecticide.
Take care.
Lorsban 15G.
The right choice for all the right reasons.
Montgomery Ward is having its biggest President's Day sale ever. All furniture is on sale 30 to 50% off. Plus, take an extra 10% off already low sale prices. Sofas as low as $269. Sleepers as low as $399. Recliners like Lazy Boy from $279. Dining sets from $269. Plus, all mattresses on sale. Sealy, Serta, Simmons. All furniture is on sale 30 to 50% off. Plus, come in early for these extra savings during the President's Day sale at Montgomery Ward.
Alexander's Photo Center is more than just a camera store. Of course, we have new and pre-owned camera equipment, film, photo finishing and accessories, camera repairs, passports, and friendly help. But also you'll find darkroom accessories and supplies, the best custom black and white lab in town, professional commercial photography in studio or on location, plus rental equipment, rental darkroom, and studio for amateurs or pros. Come in and let us help you at Alexander's Photo Center and Commercial Photography, where we offer you more.
From boomtown to bust, how the recession did in one New Hampshire city in our next half hour.
And it's now 17 minutes after the hour. Back to Exeter, New Hampshire, our home for the morning. A lot of people grouse that New Hampshire's a lousy place to start a political season. It's too small, not representative of anything but itself. But this time, with its shattered economy, New Hampshire is a kind of microcosm of the economic problems of the nation, and certainly the candidates are talking about the economy. Here to talk with us about how the candidates stand this morning, two longtime political observers. William Bennett is with us, who served in the cabinet of both the Reagan and Bush administrations. And Chris Matthews is here as well. He was a former aide to the Democratic House leadership, now Washington bureau chief for the San Francisco Examiner. Good to see you. Nice to have you up here. Complete poll turnaround on the Democratic side in the last 2 weeks. Right. Clinton was up, now he's down. Tsongas was down, now he's up. Why have things turned around?
Jennifer Flowers and the Vietnam War. I think most people assume that Governor Clinton probably spent more time with Jennifer Flowers than he did in Vietnam. And I think that it's they're worried about it. They're worried about both. They're worried about honesty and integrity. That's what I think they're worried about. When you ask people in the street, what do you care about in a president, they say honesty.
Then is Tsongas winning the support, or is Clinton losing it?
Both. I think he's the hometown favorite, so he had a base to play off of. But I basically think he's the un-Clinton. He's the guy that you think of, God, he's honest. The first thing you see on Tsongas' face is honesty. You also see, you know, the results of a very bad health problem. I mean, the guy looks like he's had a hard time the last 10 years. And so I think you have to choose between strength and honesty, and it's a very tough choice for a lot of people.
Richard Nixon on this broadcast a couple of weeks ago said if Bill Clinton loses in New Hampshire, his campaign will fall apart, he'll be gone. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. I think Clinton will come back in the South, and I think that he will come in a very close second here tomorrow, and I think he'll get a lot of good press for coming in close. You know, it's basically like, it's not a race, it's the ever-ready battery commercial, you know. These little guys beating their drums, you know. Who's going to stop beating their drum last? So you just sort of keep going and going and going. I think Clinton won't quit.
Bill Bennett on the Republican side, everyone keeps telling me that Pat Buchanan has had a great campaign up here, that he can wound George Bush. Can he?
Yeah, sure he can. I think he already has.
He's been on offense, and that's one of the key rules in politics. Be on offense, don't play defense. And a lot of passion in his campaign. Now, when you hang around the Buchanan people, see them, they believe.
But let me ask the sort of where do they go question, and I'll start with Pat Buchanan. Let's say he gets a respectable percentage against the president, and all the media mavens decide it was respectable enough to wound the president. Where does he go?
Well, he moves on. I don't think he gets to be the nominee of the party. I don't think there's much question about that. I think that's going to be George Bush. But he's whacking pretty hard at President Bush, and he can weaken him for the big race.
Gene McCarthy wounded Lyndon Johnson back many years ago, and then Bobby Kennedy stepped in. There is nobody to step in this time.
No, nobody's going to step in, and George Bush isn't going to step out. And George Bush is a tough campaigner, and we know that. And we haven't seen the best from George Bush yet. But right now, Pat Buchanan's on offense, George Bush is on defense, and that's good news for the Democrats if they can get their act together.
Big if Paul Tsongas wins here, where does he go with
Well,
that?
they all have to go south, basically.
Yeah,
on March 3rd, that's right. I think Bill Clinton is going to survive this very difficult time in his life, and I think people are going to go with strength. I mean, I've interviewed people all day yesterday. What do you care most about in a president? They all say honesty, but you know what? That isn't the honest answer. The honest answer is what you most want in a president is strength. You want somebody to take care of you. You want security. People are scared of this economy right now, and they want somebody that looks like they can handle it.
Press writing and talking about some other Democrat getting into the race, perhaps after New Hampshire. Is it too late? Can somebody get in? Will somebody get in?
It's too late for the crowd that's waiting. They're all middleweights. There are no heavyweights in waiting. I think Mario Cuomo would be the worst candidate in this race because if you've watched the polls the last couple of months, what the voters in the Democratic primaries are really saying is we want a relatively conservative candidate. And when they got upset with Clinton for a while, they went over to Tsongas, another relatively conservative candidate. Clearly, they've made that judgment. They don't want Harkin. They don't want a liberal or Jerry Brown. They want a relatively conservative guy. Cuomo doesn't fit that bill. Cuomo is an out-and-out raging liberal, and I don't think he's the candidate for this year.
Well, there's the interesting possible sea change in the Democrat Party, that the two front-runners on the issues, as well as the polls, Tsongas and Clinton, are both quite conservative when it comes to economics. Tsongas particularly. And he is, in this state which is suffering so much, offering an uphill climb.
It is interesting in last night's debate. No Democrats were talking about the party of Hubert Humphrey again. Harkin talked about Harry Truman a little bit, but there was nobody really talking about the party of Hubert Humphrey. Who does the president most want to run against? Who does he least want to run against?
I would think right now, surprising, it may surprise you, I think he'd probably most want to run against Clinton. I think he'd least want to run against Tsongas.
Why Clinton?
Because I don't think Clinton will last. I think he's got breathing room, but I think he's got this problem of credibility.
And why least against Tsongas?
Because Tsongas you're not going to be able to bash this guy as a welfare state liberal. He is certainly not a welfare state liberal. Sounds pretty conservative on economics. I suppose on the social issues they'll try to argue against him, but he's an attractive and interesting guy.
5 seconds for prediction. Who wins tomorrow?
I think Buchanan's going to put on a dynamite show. If he gets over 35, he wins. I think he'll get as much as 40. I think the Democrats will be a close finish. Tsongas, Clinton, real...
Check out Menard's hardware department for big brand name savings. Add more life to your car with Haviland Formula 3 motor oil. Choose 10W30 or 10W40. Now just 79 cents per quart after mail-in rebate. And Piranha saw blades and Scorpion or Bullet bit sets from Black & Decker are now 25% off our everyday low prices. This Black & Decker glue gun is just $6.99. Discover brand name savings at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Who's won 100 grand playing Iowa's $100,000 cash game?
Freddie Barron from good old Ottumwa, Iowa, and I won $100,000. I'm going to invest it in run a record service in Ottumwa, and I'm going to invest it in update my truck and buy a flatbed truck. If I can win it, anybody can. I love Iowa $100,000 cash game. Thank you.
Iowa's $100,000 cash game.
Mighty good.
Best Buy and Packard Bell are turning the computer industry on its ear with low prices on 3 powerful new 386SX computers. This one has an 85 meg hard drive, not 1 but 2 meg memory, and Lotus Works for just $897. For added oomph, get this system with 107 meg hard drive, 2 meg memory, modem, Windows, and Prodigy, all for $1096. Get top power with a 130 meg system loaded with 4 meg memory, modem, Lotus 123, Windows, and more, all for $1298. Powerful 386SX computers. Get them for less at Best Buy.
Yonkers.
This is a Channel 5 News Update. This Channel 5 News Brief is brought to you by Divine Office Systems, your authorized Lexmark laser printer dealer.
Good morning, 7:25 now. Fire investigators are still determining the cause of an apartment fire last night in Des Moines. It occurred about 9:30 at Oakview Apartments on 30th Street. No one was hurt, but the damage is said to be extensive and estimated at about $30,000. Firefighters think the blaze started in a kitchen on the lower level. 1 week from tonight, on Channel 5, the crash of United Flight 232 will come to television. A made-for-TV movie will show and salute the men and women who helped rescue the survivors. The movie premiered this weekend in Sioux City. Our Ken Gullett was there.
Charlton Heston made a Hollywood-type entrance at Sioux City's Riviera Theater, right behind the man he portrays in the film, Captain Al Haynes. In the lobby, Heston and Haynes ate popcorn and talked. They didn't meet before the film was made. Heston is known best for his portrayal of historic figures, such as Moses in the Ten Commandments. But this role, he says, is historic for him.
I suppose I've done as many biographical roles as any actor around, at least a dozen of them. But this was the first time I'd ever played a guy who was still alive. And it was a very different experience for me. And doing it, undertaking the event where it happened, was part of that.
The film is called Crash Landing, the rescue of Flight 232. It focuses on the men and women whose planning and sense of community made a difference when it came time to pull together in a crisis. A lot of those people were in the theater last night, reliving the horror of that day. Some rescue people still suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome. During several dramatic moments in the movie, there were periods of deep silence in the audience, each person going through their own private memories of the terrible things they saw that day. Filmmakers believe they've gotten across their message of Midwestern values and people pulling together in an emergency. The rest of the nation will be able to get that message when the movie airs Monday the 24th. Ken Gullett for Channel 5 News in Sioux City, Iowa.
The nation's political attention is now focused on New Hampshire. That state will hold its primary tomorrow night. Iowa Senator Tom Harkin has moved up a little bit in the polls. He's now in third place. We asked some of you, can he do better?
I think he'll come in third in the New Hampshire primary.
I realize he's a local boy, but I think he uses a lot of four-letter words that he shouldn't.
I know he's well-intentioned. I personally do not agree with his views and would not vote for him if I were in New Hampshire. But I hope he does well.
I think he's going to win.
How come?
I like the guy, and he's got good spirit.
Of course, we'll find out tomorrow night from New Hampshire. Of course, first we have to get through today, and it sounds like a soggy Monday.
That's right. We have rain moving into the area. We'll show you exactly where it is with Channel 5 radar in 30 seconds.
The IBM Laser Printer 10 prints graphics 45% faster than the leading laser printer. Which printer would you rather use in a crunch? The new IBM laser printers put you pages ahead. The IBM Laser Printer 10 can print 700 pages without reloading. 3 times more than the leading laser printer. They just don't stack up.
See the Lexmark laser printers at Divine Office Systems, 1326 Walnut, Des Moines.
It is mild and still dry this morning in central Iowa, but that's going to be changing shortly. Right now, a cloudy sky, 39 degrees in Des Moines, cloudy, and 37 in Ames. Channel 5 radar is showing a large area of mainly light to moderate rain has spread from portions of northern Missouri on into sections of central Iowa. I'll get it out here sooner or later. It's continuing to spread off to the north-northeast at about 40 miles an hour. We can anticipate rain throughout most of the heartland, but in the colder air, some snow. That snow could work into here later on tonight. Your 5cast for this Monday morning, periods of rain, maybe even some thunder. A high today of 48, southeast winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Tonight, rain mixing with wet snow, low temperature of 33, and tomorrow, snow will be ending. 1 to 2 slushy inches are possible, high of 39. Dry weather Wednesday and Thursday. Temperatures mostly in the 40s.
There's those temperatures we're used to, 40s.
We'll take those any day of the week.
You bet. That's our news for now. Thanks for letting Channel 5 keep you in touch.
Join us again at 8:25 for more Iowa news and weather.
Stay tuned to Channel 5. Good Morning America continues.
Weather School, only on the Channel 5 News 5 o'clock report.
Hi, I'm Howard Starr in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Good morning, America.
And hi, I'm Charles Gibson. It is Monday, February 17th, and I'm about 12 miles from where that gentleman's boat is berthed. I am this morning in Exeter, New Hampshire, at a place called the Loaf and Ladle Restaurant, sort of a prototypical restaurant, bakery, coffee shop where folks come to talk politics, and we've gathered some of the local citizens here, and we'll be talking to them in our 8 o'clock half hour. You know by now the 5 major Democratic presidential candidates, and you know the major 2 Republican candidates, but did you know that on the ballot in all, in New Hampshire, will be 25 Republicans and 36 Democrats. Even you at home could run for president in this state if you were willing to come up with the $1,000 filing fee. A lot of people have come up with that fee, and Steve Fox in this half hour will be taking a look at some of the fringe candidates on the ballot in New Hampshire. That's from here. Joan's back in New York. Joan, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. Also ahead, if you're looking for just plain fun, we have all kinds of toys to show you, some of the newest ones to go on the market. But first, Morton Dean is sitting in for Mike Schneider, and he has the news for us today. Mort, good morning.
Good morning, Joan. Good morning, everyone. Israeli-backed forces and Arab guerrillas are caught up in a new round of military battles in South Lebanon. The violence has escalated since Friday when 3 sleeping Israeli soldiers were killed in an attack by Arab guerrillas. Israel retaliated with airstrikes against guerrilla bases in southern Lebanon and a deadly attack on a motorcade. The motorcade turned out to be carrying the head of the Hezbollah party in Lebanon. Sheikh Abbas Massawi was killed along with his wife, 6-year-old son, and 5 bodyguards. All of the major candidates were campaigning in New Hampshire over the weekend. President Bush gave voters a chance to ask questions of him directly. He defended himself against sharp criticism from his Republican rival, Pat Buchanan. Buchanan accused the president of bait-and-switch tactics for pulling back from a proposal to offer a $500 tax exemption for children. Last night, the 5 Democrats held another debate. They went easy on each other, saving their heaviest criticism for the president. Voters have heard just about all the arguments and all the attacks from both the Democrats and the Republicans. ABC's Cokie Roberts has heard all that, too. She's been watching the campaigns, and she joins us now live from Manchester, New Hampshire. Cokie, expect any surprises tomorrow?
I don't think so. We always worry about saying that because New Hampshire has a way of surprising us, but it looks like President Bush wins on the Republican side and former Massachusetts Senator Paul Tsongas on the Democratic side. We're eager to see how the rest of the field does. If Patrick Buchanan gets 30% of the vote or more, how much does that affect the president in future primaries? If Bill Clinton doesn't get 25% of the vote or more, how does he go on from here? Who comes in third on the Democratic side? Tom Harkin and Bob Kerrey have been running neck and neck in the polls. Whoever doesn't come in third is likely to drop out. So we're looking at the whole field, not just the top of the ticket.
What is New Hampshire looking for this time around? Personality, charm, or a particular message?
Well, Paul Tsongas is counting on them not looking for personality and charm. He's made something of an advantage of the fact that he is short on both, or short on charisma, as he says. What they're looking for is jobs. The unemployment rate here is high. The people here are highly skilled, highly educated, and they never expected to be out of work. And they really are overwhelmed by it and very angry about it and looking for someone who will tell them the truth, get them back to work, and that seems to be Tsongas's appeal. It'll be interesting to see if he can carry it on beyond here.
It sure will. And Cokie, we'll be talking with you again tomorrow. Cokie Roberts reporting from New Hampshire. And finally, it was an emotional afternoon at the Los Angeles Forum yesterday. At halftime of the Lakers-Celtics game, Magic Johnson was honored as the team retired his jersey, number 32. And there with Magic's family and former teammates was old rival and friend Larry Bird of the Celtics, who made the cross-country trip against doctors' advice to be part of the activities. There were few, if any, dry eyes in the sold-out arena. And that's the news. Here's Spencer with the weather. Spence?
All right, Mort, we don't have much of a dry map today either. The satellite picture shows you very clearly the movement of a
pretty turbulent storm down in the lower Mississippi Valley in the southeast. This storm already has spawned tornadoes in the early morning hours in parts of Louisiana and Mississippi. Heavy flooding rains and damaging winds accompany these storms, and they're pushing eastward now into Alabama, the Florida Panhandle, and parts of Georgia. So look out for this storm during the early morning hours. It's going to be a big rain producer. And then up in the plains here in the mid-Mississippi Valley, look for the development of snowfall. Parts of Kansas and Nebraska could see 5 to 7 inches of snow, and it'll push eastward into Iowa, parts of northern Missouri, and then up into the upper Mississippi Valley as well. Out west, you may have seen some clouds moving onshore. Over the next 24 hours, look for substantial rainfall to develop from central California northward up along the coast. But it's going to be mainly mild in the far west today, and across the southern tier of states, downright warm. Highs generally in the 60s and 70s, even some 80s will be seen in the extreme southern reaches. That's a look at the national weather. Here's a look at the weather where you are.
Good Monday morning, everybody. I'm Channel 5 meteorologist Rick Mitchell. Your 5cast calls for periods of rain today. We may even hear some thunder. A high temperature in the upper 40s. Winds from the southeast 10 to 20 miles per hour and gusty.
And this weather report has been brought to you by Carnival Cruise Lines. It's now 36 past the hour. Lesser-known presidential candidates who are also off and running when Good Morning America continues.
If you're looking for a great vacation value, call Carlson Travel Network and take off on a Carnival cruise. Almost everything's included. A wide choice of daytime fun and nighttime entertainment. Delicious food, great service, plus alluring tropical ports of call. Even your airfare's included. A terrific 3-, 4-, or 7-day vacation at one low price. To book your Carnival cruise, call any Carlson Travel Network location or 1-800-CARLSON.
The Easy Spirit Color Playoffs. The Golds versus the Patents. Feels like a sneaker. The Easy Spirit Shock Blocker Pumps.
There really is a sneaker inside these little pumps.
Ordinary pickles are cooked and limp. Not Clausen. They're packed fresh and stored cold. So they're always crisp and delicious. Taste the difference. Cold, crisp, Clausen.
Mariel, you're amazing.
Oh, JP, stop it.
No, really, you get to play so many people, yet you're always you.
Well, I do get a lot of help from a terrific hairstylist, I trust.
We all know how important that is.
The thing I love is he doesn't make me just look good for the moment. He really takes care of my hair.
I'll bet I know how he does that.
Yes, of course. He only uses Paul Mitchell products, just like I do at home.
Well, I won't argue with that, but I will say this.
Yes, JP?
I still think you're amazing.
Paul Mitchell products are guaranteed only when purchased in fine salons.
It's only natural that children look to their parents for answers. So to help you explain why some things that may be fine for adults aren't right for children, Anheuser-Busch offers Family Talk, free advice from professionals to use with your kids while they're still learning to be grown up. And their favorite teacher is you. Let's stop underage drinking before it starts.
It is now 22 minutes before the hour. Well, if your scorecard shows just 5 Democrats running for president and 2 Republicans, then you probably need a bigger scorecard. Because what the people of New Hampshire know, but you in other states may not know, is that on the primary ballot in this state, there are literally dozens of presidential aspirants. And Steve Fox this morning will introduce you to some of these would-be White House occupants, the ones you don't know.
You've had 4 years, George Herbert Walker Bush.
The professional politicians have been hanging around New Hampshire for months now, debating each other, stumping for votes, and otherwise trying to get the attention of the beleaguered citizenry. But this year, a record number of regular folks are also running for president in New Hampshire because they can.
What's your name?
The state motto, in fact, is live free or die. It says so right in the license plates. And that freedom applies to politics as well. If you want to run for president in New Hampshire, you declare you're a candidate and pay a $1,000 entry fee. No nominating petitions, no party endorsements, nothing. $1,000 and you're in the race. Which explains why there are 62 names on the primary ballot.
In the past, we've had people with cans tied to their heads come in and dance, and hula dances, and Indian chiefs, Chief Burning Wood came in, that really weren't that involved with issues. And a lot of the minor candidates this year are very involved with issues.
I'm a Democratic presidential candidate. One of the so-called fringe candidates this year is Bill Horrigan. Bill makes his living as a pilot for United Airlines, but recently he's been driving up to New Hampshire for a few days every week. Horrigan is one of 36 people campaigning for the Democratic presidential nomination.
I really don't expect to get any votes. I'm embarrassed to even ask for votes. I still take this as people interpreting it as a personal campaign of mine. But all I really want is to make more people aware so that they can so that the awareness can spread.
Horrigan figures he'll spend about $7,000 of his own money on his campaign, which is staffed entirely by volunteers. His platform has two major planks:
the economy and the environment.
My name is Dick Bosa. I am a candidate for the Republican Party nomination for president in this New Hampshire primary.
Like Horrigan, New Hampshire native Dick Bosa is running a small-scale campaign, driving around the state in a van, broadcasting his message by loudspeaker. Bosa is one of 25 candidates for the GOP nomination. His $4,000 treasure chest came in small donations from his neighbors in the northern mountains where he lives.
The men in the mountains sent me down because they said, if it's live free or die, which is our state motto, then we're dying up here in Berlin, and the government is killing us.
Digging in and fighting is my choice. How many of you want to dig in and fight with me?
Actor Tom Laughlin, who starred in the Billy Jack movies 20 years ago, is paying New Hampshire TV stations to broadcast half-hour shows to advance his candidacy, which is based on support for universal health care.
Now in New Hampshire is the chance to start that new voter revolt and say, we've had it, we're not going to take it from the professional politicians anymore.
The story you are about to see is true.
Nevada businessman Charles Woods wouldn't tell us how much his TV campaign is costing, but it's a lot. Scarred for life in a World War II bomber crash, Woods went on to become a wealthy builder and owner of TV and radio stations.
I'm a businessman, and the United States government is the biggest business in the world, employing millions of people and spending billions of dollars, and I believe it needs a businessman president.
Exclusionary politics was the battle cry in mid-January when the major Democratic candidates were forced to cross a picket line of angry demonstrators en route to a televised debate. State party bosses had refused to invite any fringe candidates to the debate, including protest leader Lenora Falani, who got 250,000 votes for president in 1988 and has raised more than $1 million this time around.
If I'm too sassy, if I'm too black, if I'm too womanly, if I'm too whatever for you, don't vote for me. Vote for some of the other so-called minor candidates. But don't give our votes to people who keep spitting in our faces.
That is the professional politician.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what you're saying.
Right. I think they're the assassins of America.
A good number of those who would be president, candidates great and small, turned up one night recently in Manchester, New Hampshire for the most basic of political reasons. The Chamber of Commerce was holding an awards dinner. 700 people were expected. The candidates had a captive audience. Good evening, Pat. How do you do? Pat Buchanan was the only big name who showed up, so the fringe candidates pretty much had the field to themselves. Sometimes they ended up buttonholing each other.
We're all dark horse candidates here.
Inventor Paul Fisher was there. He ran against Kennedy 32 years ago. So you're telling me you don't care if you get elected, you just want your ideas to go forward?
Yeah, I'm 78 years old. What do I need another job for? I've been working hard all my life.
A straw poll taken at the Manchester Business Community Dinner gave President Bush a big victory. Paul Tsongas was the top Democrat. Bill Horrigan got just 13 votes, but was not deterred.
Will you quit? No, because I'm in this thing, and what if I just enlighten 200 more people in the next 3 weeks? That in itself is worth doing it.
Thanks very much, Steve. Steve is not running, incidentally, although after that piece he's thinking about it. 17 minutes before the hour, what the toy buyers are looking at this year and you'll see in the toy stores next year. A change of pace when Good Morning America continues.
From Walt Disney Home Video, they're going wild. They're going crazy. And the Jungle Book cassettes are going fast. Soon, Disney will no longer be selling the Jungle Book, so buy it now before it's solid gone.
What's good on toast? Nope, cholesterol. Calories. Nah, fat. Soupy. Yeah.
Sous Vide honey, the good taste that's good for you.
With the uncertainty of today's real estate market, many would-be home buyers have adopted a wait-and-see attitude. Your Coldwell Banker agent, on the other hand, thinks it's time to wake up to the possibilities. Home prices may never be this affordable again. Interest rates may never be this attractive. Altogether, it's a great time to buy a home. All it takes is opening your eyes to the opportunities and knowing who to call. Coldwell Banker. Expect the best.
You got kids? You got germs.
Hold it.
You definitely need Liquid Dial. It has a special germ-killing formula other liquid soaps don't. And it's hardly worth getting soap on your hands if you're not killing germs. Liquid Dial. Kill the germs. Keep the kids.
From the frigid North Atlantic to the treacherous waters off New Zealand, from oceans all over the world, comes Red Lobster's World of Lobster. Now succulent rock lobster, petite deep-sea lobster, sweet Maine lobster, in delicious combinations and at special prices you'll think the world of. Hurry in now, because this spectacular event ends soon. Red Lobster's World of Lobster.
46 after, a new toy will light up any child's face. Get out of here. But this past week in New York City, toy makers were the ones smiling. They were all showing off their wares for next Christmas at an annual event they call Toy Fair. And this morning, Spencer and I have some of the goodies along here, some of the merchandise. And these first two are cute. I'll talk, you play, okay? These are two roller skating dolls. Okay. Baby Rollerblade, that's her.
Have to kind of guide this
She's
one along.
She's by Mattel.
This is just a prototype, so she's not perfected yet.
All right, and California Roller Baby by Tyco. These are being marketed for girls. It's interesting that Mattel... Oh, look at that. Catch her before she goes away.
Not bad.
Mattel also has one for boys called The Dude.
The Dude, well,
yeah, these are under $30. What's good, though, is that they both have helmets and knee pads and elbow pads, so that's a good safety message.
Right. And here we have a remote-controlled, helium-filled balloon called UFO Turbo. This is quite interesting now. It's radio-controlled, made by Paliafito America. For kids 8 and older, that includes us. It responds to controls from
We've all been having fun with this one.
100 feet away. You can give it commands. Suggested retail price, $69.95.
All right, now for just a little bit of money, watch this. Goodbye. These are boomerangs. This is called Fun Flies. They have, you go ahead, they have round edges, so if you hit somebody in the face, it's not going to hurt them.
They're flexible.
Let's see if it comes back.
Oh, you're supposed to toss it like a knife.
It's non-toxic foam, I should say, very lightweight.
It does come back.
Okay, and it's made by GCI. Whoops.
That one didn't come back.
It's only $3.99. Now, this is fun.
Voice-activated fire truck, and it is called, remarkably, Fire Hook and Truck. What an original name.
Lights on. Whoop.
It's supposed to respond to voice controls. You say lights on, it blows its horn.
Seems like it's this way my whole life.
Ready for command.
Lights on.
Voice of authority. Lights on.
That's
Prepare dinner.